If I asked any of you if you were selfish and narcissistic, I bet you most of you would say no. However, after reading the issues and problems with American society, I came to the conclusion that many Americans suffer from materialism, selfishness, and entitlement. Let's start with materialism. Buying things we don't need to impress people we don't like. That is an interesting point that I think we can all understand, because a lot of people don't buy things because they want them. They buy them to impress their friends. The American dream. The American dream has been around for a while now. In my opinion, it started when the Europeans came over to America, and they thought they would have opportunities here. And they even thought that the sands were made out of gold. Further on, in the 30s, I believe, during the Great Depression, they wanted to have a house and a family and material things. Most Americans believe that more money equals a better life. There's a saying that goes, money can't buy happiness, but it sure helps.
That's true.
People focus on consumption rather than production. What I mean by this is, instead of producing something to better the world, they instead just want to see how much they can take. Unfortunately, this behavior is encouraged. It is with the wide availability of credit that banks are given to citizens, which doesn't sound like a bad thing until you use too much of it and then you go into debt because of the things that you want to buy. And social media. What better way to show off all of your new toys than on the internet? You can show off the new car that you bought, or the new house that you have, or all of the new fancy possessions that you have. There are even special sites dedicated to people with money. Selfishness. The first thing about selfishness I would like to talk about is lack of consideration. In the old days, people were more considerate. They would open doors for people. They would just be more happy and thoughtful of other people. Nowadays, if you hold the door open for someone, they won't even look at you. Or if you say bless you after someone sneezes, they just give you that awkward glare like, why did you just speak to me? It is always someone else's fault. If you run a red light, well, that's not my fault. Everyone else was just too slow. If I hit someone's car, it's because they stopped suddenly. It's not my fault. If I parked in the wrong spot, well, you can never get good parking in the city. What can you expect? That's not my fault. Reinforcement. This idea is reinforced because emphasis on personal success rather than concern for others. Most people define success as academic achievements, like grades and scores. They focus on their own progress and minimize the activities that don't advance it. I've had personal experience with this. I had to take higher level classes in high school and push to get better grades so that I could get to a good college. Entitlement. The modern welfare system is actually dedicated to a more European kind of state. Because in Europe, they had the feudal system, which basically meant if you were born rich, then you stayed rich. And if you were born poor, you stayed poor. So welfare was designed for those who were born poor so that they could better their lives. However, in America, everyone has equal opportunity. the poor people of today in America are split up into two different categories. They are split into the deserving and the undeserving poor. In the mid-1990s, there was a program called Aid for Families with Dependent Children. This was put out for families with low income, who obviously had dependent children. And it started out, just helping those families, but then it turned into helping single parents, like single mothers more. And as that grew, it seemed to condone single-parent households, which in fact led some of the men to leave their girlfriends or their wives so that they would get free housing and they would get welfare. Asking for and accepting these need-based government's welfare have become a fact of life. More people have been doing it than when it was created back during the Great Depression. Between 1964 and early 2014, a fraction of the civilian men between the ages of 25 and 34 who are neither working nor looking for work roughly quadrupled. Wants have been transformed to rights and ultimately into obligation. So because I want something, you should have to give it to me. That is the mentality of some people of today's society, which is why things are going downhill, which is why people are protesting because their candidate didn't win. They are protesting things that don't even matter. I hope that you listen to what I have to say, and that you will inform the future generations about the dangers of materialism, selfishness, and entitlement. We must educate our future generations, and we must live by example. We must teach them to think of others, and remember that the world doesn't owe you anything. You were born with nothing, and you will eventually die with nothing. Thank you.
Questions? The floor is open.